Hi, ladies. I hope you're doing well. This is your chapter 2 for 14th edition and 4 for 13th edition. It's about therapeutic communication. And we're going to do a PowerPoint slide show, but also I have notes. I just want y'all to know I do my homework. Look, I got all of these notes. So I'm going to try to make it flow as smoothly as possible. This is one of my favorite chapters because I really, really enjoy communication. I think communication is just so important. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so we're going to be talking about first impressions. Have you ever heard you only get one chance to make a first impression? Here we go. Why is it important to make a first impression? First impressions are important and they include more than just the first words that are exchanged. We must communicate effectively, both verbally and non-verbally with the patient and provide a warm, caring environment. The medical assistant plays a vital role in initiating therapeutic patient interactions. So what are some of the things that people notice when they first meet you? The way you're dressed, your appearance, your attitude, if you're compassionate or not. You should always smile. And again, you have to be able to communicate effectively. Diversity and communication. So cultural diversity includes general customs, norms, values, and beliefs held by a group of people. Some types of diversity could be nationality, race, cultural, ethnicity, and social factors. Individual diversities could be language, age, religion, economic status, gender, and appearance. Showing respect for all individual diversity is important for healthcare professionals. Respect is shown by being courteous, sincere, polite, welcoming, and professional in both verbal and nonverbal communication. So let's talk about nonverbal communication. That is shown through your body language, your gestures, mannerisms, appearance, self-esteem and confidence, and facial expressions. I want to find my notes on that because I wrote some specific notes down about nonverbal communication. Okay, so this is what, when I was reading the chapter, nonverbal communication greatly exceeds verbal communication. We communicate more by our body language and expressive behaviors than through words, and nonverbal communication can be very, very powerful. So some positive and negative nonverbal behaviors. So the position of your body, level with the person is positive, and angle toward a person is positive. Some negative things are if you're standing above someone and looking down, they may think that you're looking down on them. Leaning backwards could mean you're disinterested. Direct face-to-face could mean that you're confrontational. So kind of angling to the side is a more comfortable nonverbal communication. So if you think about your body language, your arms, if your arms are crossed, that gives off a very, very uncomfortable feeling. Your arms should be at your side. Your posture, you should be poised. But if you're slumped, people think that you don't have any self-worth, or it's a lack of confidence, or it could be unwillingness. Facial expressions, this is a good facial expression, right? It makes me approachable. But if you're rolling your eyes and you're yawning and you seem bored, frowning means maybe make people think you're sad, or you disagree, or you're angry. So your gestures, you guys know I talk with my hands. We should do small gestures. The overuse of hands can make people think that you're nervous or you're overexcited. Touch. And we have to be very careful with touch. Light touch on the hand is an appropriate touch. Inappropriate touching or hugging makes the person feel uncomfortable or violated. Eye contact. So if you're staring at somebody and you're not blinking, that makes people very uncomfortable. So you should be blinking and your eyes should still be moving. Staring at the patient or staring at a person like this, it makes it very awkward. So I have a little more. Mannerisms. Focus on the person. Fidgeting, looking at the watch, a phone, or a clock may make them think that you're bored with them, you're anxious, or you're impatient. Okay, so nonverbal communication delivery factors. So rate, what is rate? Rate is the speed in which the speaker talks. You should use a moderate rate. You guys know I have a tendency to talk too fast. So we have to slow down so people can really understand. Clarity is the quality of your voice. Use a very clear voice. Volume, loudness of the speaker's voice. You should use a moderate volume. I'm a big mouth, I'm too loud, I know that. Pitch, highness and lowness of the voice. Use inflections and varying pitch. You guys will notice that as I talk, I always vary my pitch. Tone is the emotion in your voice. Accepting or neutral tone. Pauses. It's a period of time where you're not talking. Helps the receiver absorb what you're saying. Intonation, the melodic pattern or the pitch variation helps the correct message to be received. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is word choice used, and precise words help the message to be correctly received. Grammatical structure is your sentence structure. Incorrect grammatical sentence structure can create a negative impression. Pronunciation, how the word is said. Incorrect pronunciation of a word may lead to inaccuracies, unless it's medical terms and they're this long and your instructor's doing the best you can. You guys know that sometimes it's hard for me to say some words for all of us. Okay, so let's talk about cultural differences and spatial distance. If you are interacting with a person from another culture group that you are unfamiliar with, follow the other person's lead and use gestures cautiously. Refrain from touching a child's head. Different types of spaces. Intimate or personal spaces is 0 to 18 inches away. Casual personal space is 18 inches to 4 feet. Social business distance is 4 to 12 feet. And public space, distance greater than 12 feet. So let's talk about the communication cycle. So the sender creates the message, the receiver decodes the message, the receiver creates the feedback, and the sender decodes the feedback. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about written communication. Types of verbal communication includes written messages, which can be phone messages, letters and email, and online information and media. Oral communication is a type of verbal communication. The styles can be passive communicators, aggressive communicators, passive-aggressive communicators, manipulative communicators, and assertive communicators. So we all know a little bit about those things, right? Let's talk about therapeutic communication. So active listening, most important therapeutic communication technique, and is fully concentrating on what is being said and how it is being said. Show interest verbally and non-verbally. That makes the active listening, it makes the person who's talking to you feel like that you're receiving what they're saying. So let's talk about open and closed questions. So I'm going to find that in my notes because I made some good notes on this too. Okay, I found it, sorry. Okay, so open asks for general information and encourages patients to respond in a manner in which they find comfortable. An example of some open communication questions. What is the reason for the appointment with Mr. Walden? Or, how have you been getting along? Those are open. Closed asks for specific information, limits the patient's answer to 1 or 2 words. Some examples of closed are, what is the name of your insurance carrier? What is your birth date? And what pharmacy do you prefer for prescription refills? So here's some therapeutic communication techniques. So I want to, that is in the 13th edition. Sorry guys, I have my books mixed up. This is the 13th edition. I want to give you the page number for that in the 13th edition. It is on page 47. And in the 14th edition, give me a second, I'm looking. Sorry. Oh, it's on page 38. I'm sorry, I went right past it. And the reason I wanted you guys to be able to turn to these pages is because there's lots of information on therapeutic communication techniques. Reflection is putting words to the person's emotional reaction, which acknowledges the person's feelings. It also helps to check what the person is feeling instead of just assuming, shows empathy, and helps build rapport. Restatement and paraphrasing. Rewording, or rephrasing a statement to check the meaning and interpretation also shows you are listening and understanding the speaker. Neutral encourages the speaker to continue and conveys you are interested and listening to the message. Silence allows time to gather thoughts and answer questions. Clarification allows the listener to get additional information. And summarizing allows the listener to recap and review what was said. So again, that is found on page 38 of the 14th edition and 47 of the 13th edition. Anger. So let's talk about anger. Crucial to know how to handle and diffuse the situation. It's important to make sure that the person's feelings are heard. You should demonstrate empathy, use active listening, and follow policies for dealing with angry individuals. You should use calming phrases like, I'm so sorry you feel that way. We're going to do everything to help resolve this issue. You should always just show understanding. Let's talk about communication barriers. There can be environmental distractions, which could be noise, lack of privacy, and temperature. Internal distractions, which could be hunger, pain, anger, and tiredness. Visually impaired, unable to see written communication. Hearing impaired, unable to hear verbal communication. Intellectual disability, unable to understand what is being said, may be functioning at a lower age level. Illiterate, which means unable to read or write. Non-English speaking. And emotional distractions, fear and anxiety related to being judged by the healthcare professionals. So those are some communication barriers that you may have to overcome. Okay, so age, understanding Erickson's stages of physiosocial development. I'm sorry, guys, it's at the end of the day, and I think I'm feeling a little tired. So trust versus mistrust is 0 to 1.5 years of age. Autonomy versus shame, doubt is 1.5 to 3 years of age. And this initiative versus guilt, 3 to 6. Industry versus inferiority is 6 to 12. Identity versus role confusion, 12 to 18. Intimacy versus isolation is 18 to 25 years. Generativity versus stagnation, 25 to 60. And ego integrity versus despair is 60+ years. So the Z status, understand Kubler-Ross's stages of grief and dying. Okay, I could not find that in the 14th edition. I'm sorry, the 13th edition, but in the 14th edition, it is on page 40. It may be in the 13th edition, I just couldn't find it. So let's talk about the stages of grief and dying. Your first stage is denial, which is refuses to accept the fact. This is a defense mechanism that allows the person to ignore what is happening. Then you have anger, can be directed at self or others. Then you have bargaining, attempts to bargain with the higher power the person believes in. Then you have depression, feel sad, fearful, and uncertain, may not participate in normal activities and distances self from others. And then acceptance, has come to terms with the situation. So there are some personal boundaries with verbal communication. Remember that certain topics are inappropriate in an office and work setting. Retain a professional relationship with your patients. Do not discuss religion, politics, or relationships. And do not gossip with the patient, befriend them on social media, share personal issues, or engage in a flirty or romantic conversation. So we're going to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so you can find that on page 42 of the 14th edition and page 50 of the 13th edition. Now, I'm going to tell you, you may not believe in some of these things, but I'm just teaching you what is in the book. So these are hierarchy of needs. So the bottom portion is physiologic needs. The next is safety needs. Love and belongingness needs, and esteem needs. These are emotional and physical needs. Then we're going to move up to growth needs, which would be your esteem needs, your cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, self-actualization needs, and your transcendence needs. I'm just going over with this. If you want to do some study on this, I have to tell you, it's fairly interesting, but we're not going to go into great detail with that right here. So let's talk about some common defense mechanisms. This is what is unconscious mental process that protect people from anxiety, loss, conflict, or shame. The types of these defense mechanisms is denial, repression, regression, displacement, projection, suppression, splitting, reaction, information, and rationalization. So in the 13th edition, there's not a lot of definition to those, but in the 14th edition, you're going to find that on page 43. So what are some coping mechanisms? Stress is a condition that causes physical and/or emotional tension. There are two types: adaptive, which is healthy. Exercising, eating healthy, and talking to others, that's a healthy coping mechanisms to stress. Maladaptive is hostility, aggression, denial, and drugs. Patient coaching. So medical assistant must remember to adapt teaching for patient. You're going to have to adapt to any special needs of that patient. Write down information for a patient with a hearing impairment and use play techniques with kids. I don't really think that as administrative medical assistants, you're going to have to deal with too much of the playing with the kids. But, you know, if you have special needs with someone that you're dealing with on the phone or up front, you can adapt to whatever needs you need to that are within your scope of practice and whatever the rules are for your particular facility. So let's talk about legal and ethical issues. Civil Rights Act provides, all providers who accept federal funds for healthcare provided must ensure equal access to services. Then you have your ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. All healthcare providers must provide free, effective communication to patients, companions with disabilities. And then you have Americans with Disabilities Act amendments. expanded definition of disabilities established in ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So let's talk about patient-centered care. This creates a relationship with the patients. Oh, guys, please forgive me. Create a relationship with the patient. Make the patient feel respected, involved, and knowledgeable about plan of care. Use therapeutic communication. Build a respectful, comfortable, and accepting relationship with patients, and give patients self-confidence. So that is the end of that. I apologize for my tongue-tiedness in certain parts. Like I said, it's towards the end of the day, and I guess I'm a little tired today. I hope that you enjoyed Therapeutic Communication. I know that it's difficult having two different books and me having to go, okay, page this or page that, or this isn't there or this is there, but it's what we're having to do to get through two different editions. If you have any questions on any of this, please let me know. Have a great afternoon and a good weekend, guys. Bye-bye.